Hey, how you doing? On this channel, we're known for making extremely budget-friendly PCs, cheap gaming computers, sometimes E-Wave, sometimes not. Recently, we've made $10 computers, and even more recently, a $5 computer. So I wondered, how cheap can it get? And before I knew it, I had it. The $2 gaming PC. But what I had soon come to realize is that building it, that was the easy part. Testing it, that's where the difficulty started. With a system that is this old, and by old I mean 15 years old, things got complicated fast. That was kind of due to our specs. See, we were running a Q9400, an R5 340X, 4GB of DDR2 Ram, and an OptiPlex 360 motherboard. I got the motherboard, the CPU, and the RAM for $1, and the GPU also for $1. The same guy was selling it. Now, he had no idea what he had, but as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to have it. Let's roll into the games. Starting us off, we have Paladins, running this game in a beautiful 1080p. Now, for us, we had minimums of 22, maximums of 84, and an average of 57. Beautiful. Oh, and then I mentioned this PC gets a little bit loud. I mean, just listen. Yeah, it's bad. But the game ran fine, and it was smooth enough, and it was an enjoyable experience. Honestly, anything over 30 FPS is good, especially for this price point. The next game we tested was Fortnite. At 720p low, we had minimums of 4, maximums of 61, and an average of 31. These minimums of 4 came whenever we were initially loading into the game and dropping out of the battle bus. It was a little bit shocking for a moment, but very smooth after. It went and had to smooth itself out. Now, this average of 31 was in fact playable, especially in buildings. While you can't see the FPS counter right here, it was probably running around 40 to 50 in the buildings, and whenever going into build fights, it would probably drop to around 27 to 35. Now, if you intend to play the no build mode, then you can have a really enjoyable time. It's like playing PUBG or any other Battle Royale game, just with lower frames. All in all, a very enjoyable and pleasant experience. Even if my gameplay wasn't as good as it can be, I'd still say it was a very show playable game. And with that, I'd say we go ahead and move to the next game. Valorant ended up being next on our list, and we were able to run it at 1080p. Now, while we were in the competitive settings, we were able to run it with a minimum of 37, a maximum of 79, an average of 62 frames per second. I have no idea where the minimum of 37 came from, probably whenever I was dying, which I did quite a bit. But otherwise than that, I really didn't notice it. The average was, in all honesty, very much so competitive experience and a good gameplay. Once again, $2, 60 plus FPS in a modern title such as this, I'd say that is more than doable, honestly. Super duper playable and really enjoyable. Even got a few kills here and there, and so, no complaints. And even if that min was a little bit low, I really didn't even see it, so it's alright. After this, we decided to test Rocket League, and this is whenever the issues started. Now, while we were in performance mode at 20p, it didn't run the best. Well, we did have an average of 59 and a minimum of 51, and a maximum of 61. My thing that I didn't enjoy was just how choppy the game looked. But if you're still just trying to play Rocket League on a budget, it really was not that bad. The game did stutter at times, bringing us down to our minimum of 51, but that was only whenever cars were crashing into each other and even exploding on one another. Really, besides that, you didn't see too many noticeable dips. It shows a connection error right now, as you can see with that big lag. And that was one thing I did also notice. I think our 4GB of RAM did not help us out the most in this build, and that was what could really be improved upon in the future. Because those 4GB are really the only reason why a lot of our games weren't too good. I mean, this is COD World at War, really old title. While we were able to see an average of 58, and minimums of 46, this game is from the time that this processor came out. This is a really old game, and so we would be expecting to see 100 plus frames, but I believe that our RAM was the limiting factor here. Don't get me wrong, still a very enjoyable playthrough of one of my favorite games of all time, which of course I grew up playing this game, and at 768p it was not bad. with a minimum of 46, a maximum of 60, and an average of 58. Really could not ask for more. All in all, once again, a very enjoyable gameplay experience. Anyway, with that being said, I'd say we go ahead and move to the next game. Here we have Royale. Don't get me wrong, we had minimums of 11, maximums of 61, and an average of 35. But I actually found this to be very playable. Even in the 768p range, I think it was very enjoyable and a nice sharp looking game. All in all, not a bad experience whatsoever. I was able to do all of my game and all of my input features without much input lag, and so that's really an important thing. I was able to go hand in hand with another person, and I was even able to beat them. That on its own is just another testament to how good this $2 computer is. The minimums of 11, which I might always have to ask, why do they come? Well, here's why. Whenever loading into the game and rendering so much of the map, it causes issues. Though, as you can see, those issues were not really much of a problem to us. Let's see what we've got next. Oh, Rust. Yeah, this one didn't really work, I'll be honest. The Core 2 Quad kind of failed, and there's the blue screen to prove. After this, though, we did get to see Star Wars Battlefront 2005, a game I grew up playing on the PlayStation 2, though it certainly did not look as good as this. At 1080p high, we had minimums of 59, maximums of 60, and an average of 60. If you couldn't tell, it locks at 60 frames per second. But it was still a really enjoyable game to play. Able to play through on one of my favorite old maps, it really was not much of an issue. Though, if you are working with older hardware like this, you will always see one thing, and that is lack of driver support. Even in the recording, it doesn't look the best, and that's just because on these older titles, it really has just not been optimized as well as it could have been, and since the company AMD has kind of forgotten about these older R5 workstation cards, there's not really the best of optimization in really any games nowadays, and I think that was kind of our biggest drawback. Besides that, though, it was an enjoyable experience, and $2 goes a really long way. Let's go on to the next game. Minecraft. On the top left, you can see it's running pretty smooth, but whenever we weren't even recording, we were able to get averages of 147, a max of 171, and a minimum of 61. Now, being in the fast range was to be expected. Though this is the newest release of Minecraft, so keep that in mind. If you wanted to, you can probably even download some shaders. Now, I don't think you could go too far with those shaders, but I bet you it would still definitely be possible. In an enclosed space like the house that I was in, the game always stayed at a very high and consistent frame rate. If you were to go underground, it'll do just the same. All in all, unless you're running around loading in chunks and chunks at a time, I think you should be just fine, and you'd have a great time playing Minecraft on this machine. Though, without further ado and enough Minecraft gameplay, let's go ahead and check out a different type of benchmark. My personal favorite benchmark is the YouTube playback benchmark. We're able to get 4K videos running really smoothly. And while I am trashing JaneDak's video and his amazing PC build, it was still a very nice experience. I was able to even jump around a little bit. Oh, and a quick and special thanks to the guys in the Discord, which link in the description if you want to help out with builds like this. They helped link me to an operating system that was lightweight to where my 4GB of RAM did everything I needed to. Anyways, this brings us to the outro. Was the PC worth it? I'd say so. If you're able to get a deal like I did, go for it. And have a wonderful day.